right, so getting down to business,
Yes, what are we gonna do? Twin
and we
flamies tonight?
we can start right now. We're gonna do the twin flame connection.
Oh.
But I wanted to say publicly, if anyone hears this and sees this, I do readings. I can read people, read energy, um, feel things, but I would love to meet someone who could do that for me because I can't really read my own personal stuff when I'm in it because there's an attachment to it.
Isn't that always the way? I think we talked about the other night. It's so easy to tell somebody else, like, hey, this is what's wrong, or you should do this, or like you can just see it so clearly with somebody else. And then when it's yourself, you're like, I don't know. For
Yeah,
me,
but
anyway. For me.
it's not just about that. It's my intuition gets clouded by other stuff. And that's what I really want to feel is like I want to feel like 100% intuition. I could feel it when I'm reading other people because I don't I don't have any interest in their outcome, right?
Mhm.
Because it's their life and I'm not really trying to interfere or whatever.
Oh, you're a vested interest, so you're kind of like clouding your own judgment, kind of.
Yeah, you just
Well, when you did my
how-
reading, you hit every single nail on the head. I was very surprised. We got to get you to do like a short reading on an episode so people can get like a trailer of it, see what you can do because you have a gift. You do have a gift. I'll say that for sure. Your
I
gift
know.
doesn't work on you, but you do have a gift.
Uh, true. Although I'm trying to affect the outcome and manifest and such, but I'd like to know like, oh, I feel this like 100%. And then when I look back, I'm like, yeah, I did feel that, but I didn't really like trust it because it was mine. And I'm like one of those people that I don't like to get my hopes up until I know it's done. So I always say like believe it to achieve it. And I'm still in that old school mentality of when I see it, I'll
I
believe
believe
it.
it. Oh, repeat after
All
me. Everything is working out for me. I am a boss bitch, and everything is working out for me.
right. So we're gonna do twin flame.
Blech, twin flame.
Um,
I don't know why people. Okay, I get it's a popular topic, and we'll talk about it. I just don't understand why people. I get why everybody online is like a fad. I get that. Here's what I don't get. Why the hell would anybody want to seek out a person that is going to trigger their deeper inner shit, like at some point dip out on you and make your world a total shit show? I don't understand why people want to seek that out
I think that
actively. If it happens to you, it happens to you and you have no control over it. But why the hell do people actually research this, learn about it, and then be like, hey, I want to meet somebody that's going to just completely dismantle everything about me and like make me deal with my rawest shit? I don't know.
supposedly the twin flame is the mirror to show us. That's my understanding. And also there's a magnetic attraction to each other. Like you can't get enough. So I think
Mhm.
isn't it like one soul meets like their soul and they feel complete? I think that's what a twin supposedly
It's
is.
one soul, two bodies. So you're the same soul. You're in two different bodies. You lead two different lives. You're two different people. You've had two different pasts, two different upbringings. But at the base of it, so they say, what it boils down is that it's one soul, two bodies. And even if you meet that person and you have all that stuff, like you said, like this magnetic and perfect attraction, there is no guarantee that you're going to be with them in this lifetime.
Well, there's no guarantee of anything anyway, except we're all gonna die one day. That's a guarantee.
All right.
But
Do you know all the stages of the journey? Hold on, we're gonna pull them up on ChatGPT. I know them all, but it's been a minute, so let me just pull them all up. So I'm looking at them fresh.
all right, you go to work on that. I'm gonna talk about how some of the experiences that I've heard about and experienced myself and read about is that, and you can kind of say if it sounds accurate, because I think we all might have a little bit of a different experience since our perceptions are all different of our reality.
Mhm.
But for me, I remember feeling like, oh, I want to be around this energy like all the time. I can't get enough of this.
Mhm.
It makes you, well, it made me feel happier. My vibration went up.
Mhm.
Uh, it made me happy about being alive,
Mhm.
our presence.
Mhm.
What else? What are some of the other key things? I know there's the magnetic, like the heart attraction, like it's almost like your soul or your heart or whatever is like magnetically like attracted to theirs and vice versa. Obviously, there's the sexual chemistry.
No,
Uh,
it doesn't always have to be a romantic relationship. That's the thing. Like, so I've gone down this rabbit hole, and there's YouTube channels just dedicated to this. And God, I can't think of the name of the channel, but it's this guy, and he tells about his twin flame. He's married to the woman now, but just to quickly summarize, he talks about it in detail. He meets this woman, and they start dating. He doesn't know her very long, not a few months, like 3 or 4 months, and they have a great connection. You know, things are going good, and then she just kind of stops, like just kind of falls off, and he is talking about having, like, I guess because part of it is a separation and reunion phase, and um they usually, the first phase is called like you meet, obviously you have an intense soul connection. They have a bubble love phase where it's just like a super intense love, like you all about each other, nothing else matters. And then all of a sudden that can last somewhere a few months to like a little over a year, so they say, if you go down the rabbit hole on Reddit. And it,
mm,
this guy was a couple months, and then he said he could not stop thinking about this woman, no matter what he did, like obsessively, like couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and no idea why. It wasn't a friend of his. It wasn't somebody he knew very long. He was like introduced to her, and they started dating. Anyways, the guy ends up like literally can't eat, can't sleep, has no idea why he's thinking about this person this much, like trying to stop, can't do it. Crazy shit. I mean, I'll have to think of the name of it. Anyway, we'll put a link in
that
the description if I can remember it. Anyway, he eventually has his dark night of the soul and all that crap, and just stops trying to, eventually stops trying to like chase her. And that's what they all say. It's like, if you want the person back, stop chasing them. If you're going after them, you're repelling them. If you stop, just like an elastic, they go like this.
resistance.
Well, if you're chasing them, you're okay. So it's like two magnets, like you said, magnetic connection. So you flip the magnets, boom. You ever take
Yep.
two magnets and flip them backwards? You cannot push them together. So if you're chasing them, they're constantly going that way. But if you turn and stop, they can only go so far before they got to come back. And the wife's
Good
not,
point.
the wife doesn't, though it didn't really happen for the wife, because the wife will talk. He doesn't really show her on his channel. He has a very popular channel. But anyways, the wife doesn't talk. She'll talk, but he doesn't really show her. And she didn't really like identify with any of that stuff, but she believes him because he's, I mean, he'll go into, the dude goes into detail on the drain, but that's part of it, is you get like an obsessive thinking phase, not like, I haven't, not like a stalker thinking, just no matter what you do, you cannot get this person out of your mind. Not like texting them a million times, but the way
I,
that you describe it is like that.
I've heard of it as almost like someone puts a spell on you. I've heard someone say that to me, or a couple people say that to me, like, oh, I felt like they put a spell on me. I couldn't stop thinking about them. I'd wake up in the morning. There's so many different things happening. And
Mhm.
it's either telepathy, or if the other person isn't feeling it, then I think there's just some magnetic connection that you can't help but to feel their energy, especially if your soul is like,
So I've also heard it described when you initially meet these people. I've read about it in two different ways. The first way is like an intense, very intense connection. You feel like you're comfortable with this person. You feel like you've known them your whole life. Just like you're very comfortable in, like you've been friends forever. And supposedly, like you said,
mm,
it's the same soul and two bodies, right? And you basically have agreed in a prior life or wherever to come in and to trigger each other to work through your shit. And it is, I've heard it described that way, but then I've also heard it described the opposite way. And there's a woman, an Indian woman, she has her name's Partner or something like that, but she has a very big twin flame channel. She's married to hers, but she was married and had kids, and so did this other guy. And she met the guy in like India. A friend introduced them. They met on the street, and she's like, I hated this man. And she obsessively thought about him because she couldn't, whatever happened in their initial meeting, she could not stand him. He irked her. He like, I think they snapped at each other when they were introduced, but she couldn't stop thinking about the guy still, but it wasn't the same thing. And then it ended up like a few years later, through mutual friends, they came back, and then, they talked, but I think they were both married with children and had families. And then at that point, they stayed in touch a little bit, and they're married now, but she talks about her whole journey with it. And it's similar, very similar, but again, like sometimes the initial meeting is like, they just irk you so bad and you're trying to figure out why. And she's an older woman, and they didn't have it on the internet to go search. And she was another thing. If it's authentic, they say, if you look into it, if
Yeah.
it is authentic, they will also say you have no idea what a twin flame is. You have never heard the concept. You have no idea what the hell that is. And that is like, if it's a genuine thing, like you will come across it by accident. And she was before the internet, I think she said, was in a bookstore and just happened to find a book, or there was a book there about twin flames, and she'd picked it up in the store and was flipping the pages, and I don't know, just like the introduction or whatever described like what she was dealing with, and she bought the book, and that's how she had found out about it. Anyways, so that's another thing. There you go.
Divine guidance, divine intervention. It comes when I've actually heard of things falling off the bookshelf and opening to the page of what you're supposed to.
Oh, I totally believe it. So another thing with it that's common is that it is very intense. It is very challenging.
Yeah.
And
Talk about that a little more in depth, what you mean by very intense and very challenging between.
So again, this is just me going down the Reddit rabbit holes and reading posts and researching about it. The connection is very intense. So that bubble love phase is a very deep, very quick, very intense love energy with that person, touching them, anything around them. Like you can't keep you just like being around them. And it doesn't have to be a romantic thing. I've heard people describe it. It could be a friend, could be a family member. But it's also intense. You know what I mean? It's like, a heavy friendship. I've heard of it. I've read of it being, same sex, and where the people aren't necessarily, gay or whatever, but you still feel that connection and that energy with the person. And it's very challenging, for them to maybe be around that person. But they also, there's a separation phase with all of them. And during the separation phase, this person is a different person. And it's, you got this person, you have a great connection, and all of a sudden, like a light switch goes off. Not that they're cruel, not that they're mean, but you separate. They could be for very valid reasons, work, relocating for work, family issue, whatever. It could be something completely logical, or it could be something illogical. Just one day you just stop hearing from them. They won't return your calls or whatever, and you have no idea why. Anything like that. But there's threads through all these posts that I read and research I did. Look, hey, do you want to shove something in a shoebox and be like, this is what it is? I don't really subscribe to that, but I'm pretty logical. And if you get a bunch of people around the world describing the same thing and having all these similar threads, it's a thing. I've also heard that when you do separate, you reconnect at some time. Could be a year, could be 20 years. And weird shit. People, like you said, divine intervention, they travel someplace for vacation, they're at their hotel and they haven't talked to them in 10 years, seen them in 10 fucking years. One woman relocated to some country in Europe for work and moved to a new city, had no idea where this person was. They didn't live there, they lived on another continent, and lo and behold, bumped into him someplace, and that person was living in that same city. Just crazy shit like that. And I think we talked about this before. It's one of those things where you can't, it's just going to happen at some point. No matter what you do, just fate, divine intervention, what have you, is going to guide you back. And
Definitely fate, definitely destiny, definitely your consciousness pulls each other, our spirit consciousness. We all have a certain like nature about us.
Yep.
And we emanate that out, which is like our energy, that's our vibration, our spirit, our soul. We all have individual feelings, like you'll be in my energy, you feel a certain way. You go in someone else's energy, you feel another way. So I also think that we can call each other to, like, when we're thinking, when we're visualizing, there's something to do with the consciousness that's in us and in them, that we have a plan of when we're supposed to like meet or re-meet or,
Yep.
reconcile, reconciliation.
So another thing that's a common thread is we talked about that magnetic, pull. And when you're separated, that pull can become like unbearably intense, meaning the other person is probably also thinking of you. And it's like an intense, like I've read posts where people like, I had to like drink myself to sleep because it was that bad. They're trying not to do it or not to think, and they are trying to figure out why they're thinking about this person or what happened or what, and it ends up triggering something. And it's basically at the core of it, that all comes back to when that separation phase is to give you a trauma, not to necessarily break your heart, but like break it open. And you have what's called the dark night of the soul, which is a spiritual shit show, and you deal with all your shit. Rejection and something like that, it manifests as physical pain. People say heartache, heartbreak, on a biological level. The brain processes rejection or emotional, like rejection, whatever, from a parent, from a friend. Well,
it's grief.
Well, not grief, like maybe like a loss, but rejection on this level where there's such a deep connection, the body processes it as physical pain. So you get, people say heartache, the stabbing pain in the heart, but you also get like, it's described as like a stabbing pain in your stomach. And the one guy's channel, I have to look what it is. But anyways, he would describe it as like feeling like he was just constantly being stabbed in the stomach. I had no idea what the hell this all is. And then he described his dark night of the soul and that whole like shit show. But it basically is to put you on your spiritual journey, to get you to, what have you, because once you go through that, and or any trauma that puts you into like a dark night of the soul, which is just a deep introspection and like pulling threads to the surface, or traumas or what have you to the surface, it's a lot. Whenever you process it, whether you go to therapy for something that happened when you were 5, or if you're in combat and you're talking to a therapist and you're reliving it, you're working through it, it's a lot. And it's painful to bring those things to the surface. But also, when you bring those things to the surface and you feel that pain, you heal and you move past it. It might take a long time, or it might take, but you get past it and you evolve spiritually. And then you have your whole, another part of the journey is you have a whole spiritual awakening thing. And you can, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this that gets you there. Any big event in your life, a divorce might cause it, death of a parent, death of a child, some huge thing that impacts your life. And with the twin flame journey, like I said, it's such a deep spiritual heavy connection that some people probably have never had before. When you get to that separation thing and the two of you are not speaking, because you're repelling each other, so no matter how you try to call them or text them or write them a letter or whatever, they're just not going to respond to you. And I've also read about that people that are actually like, later on in their journey, they're married or they're back together or what have you. And when they look back, whoever the person that ran away, because they call them a runner and a chaser, whoever the person that ran away was, for whatever the reason, whether it was justified or unjustified or logical or illogical, when they look back, they don't know why they acted that way. They're like, honestly, I don't really know why. We didn't try and figure it out. Or, I don't know why I did that. And that is another common thread. And it's almost like on an unconscious level, they do it because they agreed in a past life or wherever to do this to each other. I don't know why the fuck anybody would agree to torture themselves in this manner, but anyway.
All right. Well, I've also heard and spoken to people about that. You almost kind of look alike. And I know that sounds weird because one person's going to be, if it's a romantic twin flame, one's one sex, the other sex, unless you're the same sex, but you almost like have the same looks, like hair color.
I've heard that. I've read that.
Not always, but sometimes, like you kind of look like you're supposed to be together type of like a feeling.
So another thing is that
your energies are similar.
No, your energies are definitely similar. It's definitely a mirror of you. It's like having I don't know, remember from Austin Powers, Mini-Me? It's like that. It's like this person is you, but different. Whatever. But you will get things like they'll dress similar or they'll have similar taste in clothes. You lead separate lives, separate backgrounds, but your lives are parallel, meaning there is a ultra common thread through both your lives. Like
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's weird as fuck, but then there's other things that a lot of people say they have, like a telepathic connection, like they can communicate with each other. You go to call them and your phone rings. You go to text them and a text bubble pops up, like literally, whether it's on a conscious or some people describe it as they can actively do it. And some people describe it as it's not like I can carry on a conversation and be like, hey, bring home milk. And they just show up with milk because they heard you. But it'll be more like, I don't know.
It also can come through in dreams because we're more.
Yes.
And we're not like as programmed when, we're dreaming. And also, not to totally divert, but when loved ones have passed, they can come easily into dreams. Yes. And then supposedly, and I feel this to be true, when we are on the other side, we don't talk. Like we communicate telepathically because we're spirits. So that's something that we have been doing before we even came here.
So they say like there's a 5D connection, which would be you can, in the dream or in your meditation, like you can they can come to you and they don't necessarily speak words, but you feel them communicating with you energetically, however that is. Another thing that is a common thread of the actual journey that both of them have to be a runner and a chaser at some point in the journey, meaning one person dips on the other, you guys come back together, and then the other person, after a reunion of years, months, whatever have you, that person and the other person, like, and chasing not in an obsessive stalker way where they're sending you 5,000 texts a day and showing up at your house and at your work, not in a creepy way, just like energetically chasing, meaning like you text them and they're just not going to reply to your text because you're in that energy of lack or want or whatever. But then when you boil it all down to all the crap, and there's other things too, I'm gonna try and remember them and look them up, and you can weigh in here after I say this, but the whole purpose of it is of the separating, the feeling that intense love, the separating, and constantly thinking that and feeling the pull and feeling that energy and not knowing what it is, and then having that dark night of soul and looking within and having spiritual growth and a spiritual awakening. And don't get me started on fucking seeing numbers on the clock. That's fucking a huge thing. Literally call the clock numbers, and that doesn't have to be twin flame, guys. That's like a spiritual awakening thing. You'll see like 1111, 222, 333. From my own spiritual awakening, I told you it, Jess, I think I had to put tape on the clocks at my house because I thought I was going crazy. Here's a pro tip: if anybody watches this video and is dealing with that shit, get a notebook and like write down the dates and the numbers that you see, because if it happens so many times consistently day after day, you're just going to think you're nuts. But if you just kind of jot it down, like, or put it in your phone, then you're not crazy and you can see it. And then they're angel numbers too. So if you see the same one a bunch of times, don't start flipping cards. I don't want you telling me any crazy shit.
No,
But if you get like 333, like every single day of the week, a couple of times, you can go look up the angel number and see what it means. It give you a little guidance. People do pretty good, like on what they mean and the bases of them if you want to look it up. But dude, when I was doing mine, when I had my like whole spiritual awakening thing, literally there were weeks on end where I'd wake up in the middle of the night to like use the bathroom. I just wake up and roll over and look at my phone: 333, 222, 444, 555, like to a point where I thought I was going crazy. I digress. Okay. So the whole thing I'm talking about with that was, when you boil it all down, the separation of thing, it is to show you, or for you to understand, what unconditional love is. And we spoke about this the other night. If you really love somebody and somebody's like, why do you love them? You could give surface reasons why you like a person or what you enjoy, but when you ask somebody like why you genuinely like them, and if their honest response is, I don't know, I just do. Like, I just, for whatever the reason, I am willing to put this person before me. I'm willing to, do whatever for this person, or I love them at a distance, and hey, they're doing their own thing and we're not talking right now. And I send them like those positive vibes and good energy, whatever. But unconditional love is at the source of the twin flame journey. What it teaches you, why you have to feel that heartbreak, why you got to go through the dark night to come out the other side, and to teach you what love really is. And you can jump in from there, and then there's one final stage we can talk about after that.
No, I just wanted to also say about the numbers. I've been working on affecting an outcome with my energy within and with my consciousness. And I kept seeing 111 on license plates everywhere, to the point where I was like, oh my God, stop. Don't even look at the license plates, because it was just like boom, 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 boom. It was so in my face. And when I was like vibrating at like a decent level of positivity within, and I like to keep my like vibration up. And we all get stuck in like fear and worry and anxiety, but like when you're like in like the good stuff, like in like the soul kind of level, and you kind of step back from the ego, and you let go of like a lot of programming and limiting thoughts and all that, like we really like have no idea how powerful we can be in affecting our reality.
It sounds crazy when you hear people say, manifest, you're the creator of your own reality. And then, because I've gone down those rabbit holes as well, and there are people that have been preaching this shit. I mean, you go back to like Zen spiritualism, like foundations of Buddhism, even Catholic and other religious texts. They don't necessarily say it in that way. You can manifest your own reality, but if you actually read some of the passages, that's literally what they're saying.
Yeah, since Jesus, maybe before too, but I know that's when it was documented.
I mean, there's other
It was,
shit that go past him, but yeah, it's
yeah, exactly.
forever. People have been saying it.
And also, I want to do a whole nother, podcast on this. I want to talk about, that, that time where it was just like an island and it was, human beings and they had like these magical powers, but I'm not sure if they were that much different than us. Atlas or Atlantis.
Atlantis.
Yeah, we have to do one totally just separately on that because that's supposedly about they had all these powers and they learned how to like maneuver and work with like more percentage of their brain because we only use 10% of our brain. We don't even access 90% of what's possible. I don't know, maybe some of us are using more, I'm not sure, but I know that like the general population only uses 10% of their brain. And then anyway, I don't want to go off on that, but we have to do another one on that. So finish up the twin flame thing.
So the last part or the final stage, if as they say, you're supposed to be with your twin flame. Oh, there was something else I wanted to tell you. Oh, the Dark Night of the Soul we are just talking about. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. Maybe we could do an episode. We can do a whole one just on that.
Yeah.
The Dark Night of the Soul, what that is your ego death, meaning you found this person, you fell in love with each other, and whatever reason you're not together, people get in their ego. Fuck them. They want to talk. I've tried calling them. They can call me. And then maybe that other person is in that same thing for whatever. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're not talking to somebody, you don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know what's going on with them. If you're not in touch or you don't have mutual friends, maybe you could reach out through whatever. You don't know what's going on there. And, when you get that ego death, where the Dark Night of the Soul is part of that, and you kind of get, the book, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. That's where you get to. You get to like love yourself, be happy with yourself, and you really don't give a shit. But
And then you can also do some work on forgiveness and you can do I love you, thank you, sorry, and please forgive
me. You're
Mhm.
hoping no, whatever the hell it is.
For everything. We can do
True.
that for everything.
Listen, I had to, I'm not trying to make this about me and throw in, but I'll just real quickly, like, I had a person that put me through some shit and, I got over it. And you cannot control someone else's behavior. You can control how you react to it. But on another level, if you want to get completely past it, you got to forgive them. Not to pick up the phone and be like, hey, I forgive you for fucking me over, or whatever you did, or not paying me back the money, or stealing my car, or whatever the fuck they did to you to wrong you. But you forgive them for yourself. So if you think about that person, you don't relive the emotions of how they screwed you over, or you know what I mean? But forgiveness is huge. And that's part of this journey. I think when you get to that unconditional love stage and you get past your own ego on things. But the last stage of it, that's again is a common thread, is if you do meet one of these things and it's a roller coaster shit show and it's going to turn your life upside down and all this, and any of you fuckers watching this video that are seeking this person out, good luck, Hoss. Have fun with that shit. If you do come back together after all the BS, and I'm probably missing a few things that are threads, but I think we covered the big ones, is purpose and mission, meaning that you're here together to do something. And if you do come back together, the last common thread too is if you do come back together and you are going to be together in this life or what have you, the last part of it is a purpose and mission together. But part of that is when you do come back together for that last time, you both agree to work on whatever's left for you and the other person together.
Yeah.
And if you can get to that point with a person, whether it's a friend, a romantic thing, family member, whatever, if you can get to a point with another person where you got that much love for them, like I said, it doesn't have to be romantic, it could be a friend, family member. If you get that close with somebody that you can work your triggers together, or both of you can, two-way street, hold each other accountable and like feel safe with that person and be like, not let them push you away or not let them run away from it and not berate them. But you guys both kind of agreed that you're going to do it together. That's a very, very deep connection. And but that's part of it at the end. And the last thing is there's a mission together. You're here and you came together and you're supposed to do something. You have a mission or a purpose in this lifetime. Could be helping others, could be contributing positively into the world in some way, shape, or form, or fulfilling or sharing, some final destiny or what have you, whether that's through, having children and doing a family together, or working, opening a homeless shelter, or doing something to give back to the world, but you do that together and that fulfills you. Kind of like you and I do this nonsense. Maybe someday like thousands of people will watch and maybe like 1% of them will get something from us, or maybe we'll help one person. I'm good with one. You can get one, I'm good.
I totally just did a short video on my free therapy that I got to post after, and it was all about exactly that, like impacting the world every day and just making a difference. And I think that if more people, forget about twin flames, just more people in general would forgive, clear energy, get into authenticity, live from, not from like ego and I do this too, because I'm like, oh, I want to treat them how they treated me, but not get stuck in it. It's all right to go into it because we're human, but when we catch ourselves, just like, all right, I'm coming back to my energy. And when you go forward and you want to make a difference and an impact on like lives in general, like every day, like a new day, I think that you really can make a difference in however you live on the planet for.